Now I remembered to hit my button. The title of this message is going to be David Kills Goliath. David kills Goliath. If you want to know where to find that in your Bible, look for a subcaption somewhere that says David kills Goliath. It's an inspired title. It's in my Bible, so therefore I have the right to use it. This message is intended to be, and to the best of my ability in God it will be, a spiritual interpretation and application message. I feel it. I sense it. I read it. I get it. Now I got to somehow deliver it. So, reaching down into the fireball that has been stirring in my stomach, I'm going to preach this message. I don't know if I've recently preached on this subject or not. Part of me feels like I tapped into this passage not too long ago. But if I have, the Spirit of the Lord will certainly be giving us more, because this is what's in my heart this morning, and was in my heart yesterday, and nothing else seems to be coming in. So you gets what you gets. Chapter 17 of 1 Samuel. Before I preach this message, I want to give you a picture, a metaphor, an image, a concept, because I'm going to be rotating through this concept as I speak. You ever seen a stage light? The one with the green circle in it, and the blue circle in it, and the yellow circle in it, a white circle in it, and maybe some other colored circle in it. And you have this light that is posted up above the stage, and it shines down on the players, on the actors, on the scene. And depending on what the scene is, the circles will change. They'll change color. The wheel rotates. Nowadays they have more modern ways of doing it electronically, but I wanted to get this picture. The wheel rotates, and 1 minute the circle on the stage is white, and the next minute the circle on the stage is red, and the next minute the circle on the stage is yellow. But the light never changed. It was still light, the normal, same old light that we always saw. And the actors on the stage really are the same actors. But there's something different about the stage each time. There's some color change. There's something that's happening in the way that the light technician is shining the light on things. What I want you to do in your mind is to picture what we're about to look at and realize that what I'm about to speak and try to express is not intended to be a perfect mathematical equivalency chart. It is a sense and a feel of the rotating of the colors on that light beam. It is an awareness that no matter how many generations we go through life, all things continue as they were from the beginning. Vanity of vanity, vexation of spirit. There's nothing new under the sun. The stage changes, the settings change, the people change, the costumes change. The light technician changes the light, but it's the same scene. It's just been changed for the benefit of the audience to see it a little bit differently. When you look into the Old Testament, it says in the New Testament, it says that the Old Testament is for our example. It is a audiovisual lesson from God. Out of 1 billion historical events he could have grabbed to write down and say, I need to write some examples down so my kids know how to behave. I need to write some examples down so my kids know how to think. I need to write some examples down so that people understand how things work. He could have given it to us in large mathematical equations. He could have given it to us in extremely complex algorithms. He could have given it to us in fancy little word pictures, flipping things around and being really ingenious all the time. What he chose to do is he'd say, I think I'll take that example. I think I'll take that example. Hey, David, do you mind if I use your life as an example? I didn't think you'd mind. Adam, Eve, I don't know, who else can I grab around here? Saul, Jonathan, Paul, Peter, epistle of. But the example is the scene is the stage is the same. And you've got to see the changing of the colors. And this is tricky. Because this is a place where theologians and scholars and laymen can really get themselves bent around a corner and crash their car. Because they can take and switch all over the place. But if you do it right, you'll know it's the right tone, the right tenor, the right impact, the right changing of the colors. I'm going to attempt to deliver out of my spirit what's in here, and we're going to see what the words do in the story. Because there's something here that God is trying to show us. I cannot read the whole chapter all at one time, although I'd like to, so I'm just going to start reading and verse by verse switch colors on you. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shokoth, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shokoth and Azekah in Ephemus Damimim. I don't know what denominations those were. I can't even describe to you what their culture was. But I can tell you this. The Philistines, the idolaters, the demoniacs, the satanic host, the workers of evil, have gathered together their armies. They've gathered together their foot soldiers. They've gathered together their puppets. They've gathered together their clones, their lookalikes. To do battle. They want to fight. They want to fight. They have pitched their tent right in a place that's near to Judah, that belongs to Judah. We're going to camp right next to your revival. We're going to camp right next to your church door. We're going to open up our business right next door to you. We're going to put up a sign across the street. You're going to put up a sign that says revival here, and we're going to put up a happy hour right across the street that says, yeah, happy hour here too. We're going to camp right next to you because it's a battle. We don't like you. We are coming to defeat you. We have decided that you shall be brought down. You Israelites think you're so hot. You church people think you're so special. You pie-in-the-sky people think you're so unique. Who do you think you are? We will prove who you are. You're cowards. You're fools. You're weaklings. You're incapable. You have no faith. And we will prove this to you. We are the Philistines. And you are grasshoppers. We are the giants. And we remember the words of your ancestors who said, oh no, they're going to trample on us. Your fathers died before they came and will kill you after you come. This is the way it is. And we have a right to be here, don't you know? Your king's an idiot. He's getting so demonized you got to bring in a musician to chase the spirits off of him. Your religion's dead. You're dying. It's time for us to conquer you. Your time's past. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched in the valley of Elah. Yes, I guess we got to answer this, don't we? Can't stay hiding in Jerusalem. Can't stay tucked up in my castle. Can't go hide in my previous revival. I guess I'm going to have to come out into the open, aren't I? I guess we're going to have to come right up to it. I don't like it. I'm feeling really upset right now. Just the other night I had a demonic attack. Just the other night I had a real bad spirit attack me. I'm really in no mood to come up to battle. But the challenge is there, and I'd look like a fool if I didn't come. After all, I am a Christian. After all, I am supposed to be able to cast out devils with a word. Guess I better get up to the front lines. Well, not me. I'll find my foot soldiers. Somewhere around here there are men and women and children who firmly believe that we should defeat these Philistines. Me, I'm having a little personal problem as the leader of the church, the leader of the revival, the leader of the last Reformation. But, nevertheless, we cannot allow the world to overtake us. We must go to battle. We must. Saul's name means many things. It means asked, demanded, ditch, sepulcher, death. Yeah, that's the way to win a battle. Take a dead man and throw him at a demon. Take a dead church and throw it at the world. Let's have a picketing. That's what we'll do. Let's bring our armies in array. 1 million men to march around with picket signs. We'll bring our armies up. We'll show you. We'll show you. They set themselves, it says, set the battle in array against the Philistines. See? Many as us as there is a you. Ha ha. See? Ha ha. Who do you think you are? This is our land. This is our church. This is our Shokoth. Shokoch. I feel like I'm speaking Klingon. Shokoch. It is my territory you're sneaking up on. How dare you take prayer out of school? Who do you think you are trying to undercut the Constitution? What do you think you're doing? You don't get to camp that close to my house. I'll show you. And they set themselves in array. We are in array. Haven't you noticed? It hasn't changed. Doesn't matter whether it was the time of Luther. Doesn't matter whether it's the time of early Pentecost. Doesn't matter if it's the time of latter Pentecost. Doesn't matter if it's the post-latter rain day, end times, pre-end times, post-rapture, event time period, time key. Generation by generation, the battle is arrayed. The problem is, it always starts with those who are dead, going up against the world who says, we recognize you're dead. Your people, Israel, you're supposed to be prevailers with God. We're going to prove that you can't even prevail with Philistines. You may think you're a prevailer with God and you go into spiritual places, but when it comes down to earthly matters, we're going to kick your royal spiritual you-know-what right off the you-know-where. Because we're the Philistines. We've been around longer. We have 6,000 years of tradition. We got 4,000 years of tradition. We got 2,000 years of tradition. We got 50,000 years of tradition. Our nations have been around a lot longer than your nation. Don't you hear it? Don't you see it? Don't you smell it? It's there. I've been in your life for 42 years. I've been in your life for 5 years. I've been in your life for 3 months. Who are you to defy the Philistines? And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. I just don't understand. I can't understand why these Christians just can't live in harmony with the rest of us. Well, you guys are the ones who declared war. We were going about our quiet little religious duty business, hiding in our churches, doing a very fine job at it. And you decided to try to rip prayer out of schools. You kind of woke us up, you know. You tried to start doing things that we thought was done business. These things were established 60, 70, 80, 40, 100,000 years ago. I'm kidding a little on the 1,000. It's been around a while. What are you going to pick on that for? How dare you set your array against us? You know, we might have left you alone if you hadn't pushed us, Hollywood. We might have left you alone if you hadn't pushed us, media. We might have left you alone. We were getting pretty cozy in our pews, living off of our past revivals and living after our past reformations, living after our past restorations. And you know, new stuff is really hard to come by. I don't know if we like this new revivaling stuff. I don't know if we like this change. I'm Saul. I'm Saul. I like the glory days. I like the old days. I'm Saul. Israel's comfortable. I'm comfortable. Okay, so we get some demonic attacks in the middle of the night, but we chase it away with good worship music. We chase it away with somebody who's anointed, don't we? And all the Philistine sees is cannon fodder. dead bones, whited sepulchres. Obviously, we can defeat you now. We couldn't touch you a few years back. When you were marching in and you came into our land and you were all hooty-tooty and God was on your heels and you had power and signs and wonders and miracles, we kind of knew we had ourselves in trouble. But now you've been around a little while, you've established yourself, you're an old-time religion, you're an old-time denomination, you're an old-time way. It's time for us to show you, you never got rid of us. We're still here. We've been a thorn in your side, but now we're going to be an axe on your foot.
Ow.
Now we're going to chop you down, old dead tree. The truth of the matter is, this is the way it is. And all of a sudden the light up in the corner flips and the color's yellow. A minute ago it was pretty green. Now it's yellow. And there's always going to be a valley between us. Don't you get it? There's always going to be a valley between us. Two cannot walk together except they agree. Sooner or later, somebody's going to declare war, and we're going to have a valley right between the middle of us. And you're going to have the one denomination on the one side and the other denomination on the other side. Or you're going to have the world on one side, or you're going to have the church on the other side. Or you're going to have the one political party on the one side, or the other political party on the other side. And the chasm's just going to stay there. And then the color up on the light switches again, and now it's blue. Oh, I'm sorry, now it's red. I'm sorry, now it's blue. Last week, he was going to be nominated. Next week, he's not going to be nominated. Next week, that church is alive. Next week, that church isn't alive. Oh my goodness, what is going on down there? The answer is a battle. The answer is a constantly changing, mutating battle. And in the middle is the valley. There's the great chasm between us and them. And it cannot be mended by harmonic convergences, psychic fairs, UN propaganda, political anything, because the chasm is between the hearts of men being pushed and driven by the voice of the stranger against the voice of God. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath. You know what Goliath means? Soothsayer. Can also mean exile. He's a warrior with some spiritual oomph. Uh-oh. That's a little different than the other guys. So the other guys are your armies, your foot soldiers, the ones who are going out in the name of the Philistines. But this Philistine, he knows who he is. He is Goliath of Gath. He is the man who has the know. He's a soothsayer. He's a spiritually minded man. He looked right through your spiritual thin veil and said, "Church, I don't think you have a spiritual bone in your body. I think you're nothing but dust now. I think that you came up spiritual and you've become natural. I came out of Gath, the place of the winepress. Pushed down, pressed out. I'm a street kid. I'm a scrapper. I am a fighter. I know how to fight physically and I know how to fight spiritually. I know how to take anything down. And I stand on behalf of the Philistines. I'm 6 cubits and a span. You know what that means? You know what color that is? I'm the university that's been here for 400 years, you dinky little Bible college. I'm the Ivy League, you upcoming upstart think-you-know-it-all religion cult. You can't defeat me. I'm brick and mortar. Go play on the internet. You're of no value. We'll tax you to death. I'll stand in front of you and I will put IRS across my name. I will put whatever I have to across my shoulder. Because I am the Philistine. Behold the demonic host. This man was built in the fire of adversity. He's the young guy coming up. He's not the long-time established church kid, PK, who came up never questioning anything. He is the guy who came out of the place of pressure. Can you take the pressure I can put on? I take pressure. I'm tough. See these muscles? See my height? See my stature? See my laws that I wrote? See all the things that I established before I even came up to battle? Do you know what my credentials are? Do you really think you're going to take your teeny little degree from a religious institution? You really think you're going to take your teeny little political degree? You really think you're going to take your religious right thing and defeat me? I am brick. And you can blow all you want, but my house ain't coming down. This is Goliath. 6 cubits in a span. Stand anybody next to him and they look like a bad scene in a Hollywood movie. The dwarfs against the giants. Remember the giants? Oh, there's giants in the land, Lord. They're going to kill us. Yep. Now they're going to try. He had a helmet of brass upon his head. Judgment coming. Solid, shiny. That means when the sun hit down on it, boom, he looked like a god. Ever notice that when demons come to attack, they put on these airs? They put on this, I have been here forever! They put on airs. Their armor shines. It's so big that it looks like reflections coming off the side of a building. It looks like Trump Tower. It looks like, J.P. Morgan's side of the building. The sun hits it and boom! You're not going through that block of judgment. I've made so many judgments. My helmet will kill you. He was armed with a coat of mail. Ka-chink, ka-chink, and whatever else you think. You can't even touch me. You can't touch me. Because my armor's better than your armor. It doesn't matter what weapon you form against me. It can't touch me. Come on, let's compare armor. Come on, Christian, let's compare your logic against mine. Come on, let's compare your education against mine. Come on, let's compare your background against mine. Come on, let's compare. You're a bunch of weak, willy-nilly Christians who sit in a corner and pray. That's a jar. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to come in with my Chinese boots and I'm going to stomp all over every religion I can get my hands on. I'm going to come in with my Nazi boots and stomp all over every religion I can get my hands on. I'm going to come in with my Nebuchadnezzar boots and stomp all over. I'm going to come in with my Philistine boots and stomp all over. Please flip the light a few more times. It's always the same. And your battles that you're up against. Oh, it's been 20 years and I can't seem to beat this one. All I hear is ching every time I shoot a bullet. The weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. Forget what a shekel is. 5,000 of anything is a lot. It must have been heavy. He must have made Arnold, in some of them movies look like a wimp. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that the world has coded itself. They're tough. You try to make a move, they got a law. You try to make another move, they got a different law. You try to make another move, they got a different law. Their armor is lawyers. Their armor is politicians. Their armor is banks. Their armor is the entire economic process. He had greaves of brass upon his legs. That's protective shielding across his legs. And a target of brass between his shoulders. I mean, goodness gravy gracious. This guy is just plain decked. The world has been doing things for a long time. The devil has 6,000 years of experience at building armor against God's people. It doesn't matter whether it was during the Catholic Inquisition, the Nazi Inquisition, the Syrian Inquisition, which I'm sure there was one. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter whether it's the guy coming up against Hezekiah. It's the same guy. It's the same spirit of the same guy. The staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. Oh, I think I'll just grab me a tree and start using it for a spear. What's your weapon made of? Well, I've got a dagger about this long, and I got a broadsword about like this. Here, try this. Catch! thunk, you hit the ground trying to hold it. The world knows. See, the world knows. They can compare us to them, and they're starting to get to the point where they're saying, you're way weaker than we are. You're way weaker than we are. You was tough once. You was tough once. You made us put codes on our Hollywood movies, ratings and stuff, but, you know, you're not so tough anymore. I can change those ratings now. You was tough once. There were things that some of your early fathers did in signs and wonders and miracles that really quite seriously stepped us back a bit. But I don't see anybody doing that now. Doesn't seem to me that you have a leader who's got any, oomph. And that makes me wonder whether or not you prevailers with God are able to prevail against man. Are you able to prevail against demons and man? Let's find out. We're going to come down and have a fight. It says his spearhead weighed 600 shekels of iron. What kind of spearhead is that? What kind of law is that that's coming out of the last Supreme Court decision or the last Council of Ecumenical whatevers? Or the last bank meeting of the green spans and the who spans and I don't care spans? What spear did they invent this time that we haven't been pricked with yet? But we're going to see it coming. And one bearing a shield went before him. Did you catch that? I didn't catch that for some reason before. He didn't carry his own shield. He had a shield man. That means long before you get to the tycoon, his lieutenants already faced you off. All we have to do is have the shield of faith. Yeah, okay. So you take your shield of faith and you slam it into the shield of unbelief in front of you. And you're not even touching Goliath yet. You got to get through my armor man first, guy. Come on down. Can you make it through my shield? Can you bust through my doctrine? Can you define yourself in such a way as to blow me away? I don't think so. And even if you do, I'm the principality behind the power. I'm the man behind the curtain. I'm the demon behind the man behind the curtain.
You're coming down.
Yeah! Feel it! Don't you get it? Feel it. See it. The stage has not changed. We're too busy fighting the foot soldier with the shield. We're having arguments over the internet like crazy with shield men. We're not even touching Goliath. What we're hearing is Goliath. What we're getting is his shield man. He stood and he cried unto the armies of Israel. Notice he cried unto the whole army. Remember when the guy came up against Hezekiah, he didn't talk to Hezekiah. He talked to the people on the walls. These guys have no respect for authority. Don't you get it? They don't care if you're a pastor, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher. You can walk around and strut all your spiritual titles all you want. They're going to go right by you to your people. Because if your people don't back you up, you're gone. If your people are cowards, you're gone. Leadership is worthless without strong people. So they always go after the people. They always send somebody in on the inside to start a rumor. They always go in and write an article on something for somebody. They always chisel away at the people. They're waiting for an opportunity at the leader. They know if they smite the shepherd, the sheep will scatter. But hey, much better if you have the sheep tear down the shepherd. Much quicker. If you have the party tear down the person, it's much quicker. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to cry at Israel. He's going to shout at the whole church. One man shouts at the whole church. Have you ever noticed that whenever these lunatics, and I do say lunatics for a reason, you know, moonstruck lunatics, they stand up and they don't say in a news article, I've decided to come against Brother John who runs the church of such and such. That's who they're ticked off at for some reason. No. That's it. I'm going to get a law passed so this church can't do anything. Because some pastor 20 years ago hurt them. Because some minister when they were kids didn't like them. Because some school teacher decided to diss them and they got a burr under their battle. So they're going to take it on the whole church. I'm going to take prayer out of the schools to get against the whole church. I'm going to take prayer out of Congress against the whole church. I'm going to take crosses out. I'm going after the whole thing. Me, one little man's going to stand and run around doing this all the time. How many little men are running around doing this all the time? How many have gotten the spirit of Goliath upon them, the soothsayer? I'm going to predict what's going to happen to you. You're doomed. He cried and he said, Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? What a diss! Don't you get it? I'm a Philistine. I'm a part of the most powerful, demonized group of people you've ever met. I'm the witch doctor. I don't come here representing myself, but you follow a man. My mind started wrapping around that one last night. Ooh. You follow GW. You follow DL. You follow ABC. You follow GFH. But I'm a Philistine, and a soothsayer, and a military man, and I grew myself up by my bootstraps. And you're nothing but a man-following, cult-pleasing people person. He says, Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. Send me a man. Come on, come on. The devil is always picking a fight, and he's always saying, Go ahead, give me your best and brightest. I'll make mincemeat out of him. Give me a man. Give me a man. If he be able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. Liar. No, you won't. You'll temporarily retreat and come back about 40 years from now. You might be dead, but your brother's going to try and show up next. We might defeat you in the court on this law, but the next law is right around the corner. Because there's always a brother to Goliath. There's always another Philistine. The only way to stop the war is to wipe the Philistines. Don't just pick at one demon. Don't just pick at one part of a demonic army. Don't just pick at one power and principality. Run through a troop. Leap a wall. If I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. Now that sounds so nice in the King James, doesn't it? You'll be our servants. We'll make you waiters and water carry boys, and it won't be rough, honest. We'll be easy on you. If you just admit that you're powerless, pointless, and purposeless, we will just make sure that your life is neatly ordered. We'll make sure that you're politically correct. We'll make sure that your disciplines are in the right order. We'll make sure that you understand diversity. We'll show you our process. We'll show you our procedure. We'll show you our laws. And all you have to do from then on is realize you're going to be perfectly comfortable obeying all that. Okay? And if you don't, we call you a criminal. If you don't, we call you a cult. If you don't, we call you rebellious. If you don't, well, you're dissing your own forefathers who submitted to us. All you got to do is start here. All you got to do is let us set a precedent right now. All you got to do is let us win one. Just one. Just one. Give us one. Send me a man. Got anybody out there who's a good Christian lawyer? Send me a lawyer. Got anybody out there who's a good man who thinks he's a prophet of God? Send me a prophet. Go ahead. Send me a man. I'll take my witchcraft against your God thinking any day. I'll take my soothsaying and my psychic fair against your revival any day. Because long after your revival's gone, I'm still going to be around. And if I'm not around, the Philistines will be around. And if the Philistines aren't around, there's other nations I've raised up, says the devil. What's the point here? The point here is you got to first decide if you want to be a servant or not. He's made an offer you can't refuse. Serve or die. That's the offer, Israel. Go ahead. You can still have your private prayer times at home. Just don't bring it into buildings. Don't bring it onto the street. Don't bring it into your work. Don't bring it into your private life. Don't bring it into your neighbor's house. Don't bring it on. Just don't bring it. Okay? We don't mind if you internally have the concept of a God. But you have to acknowledge that the Philistines are greater than you. That's all we're asking. It's reasonable. Look at the facts. The Philistine said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. I defy you. Defy is a very strong word. I'm up in your face. I'm the bully on the street. I'm the guy, as it were, in the bar scene that walks up to the good guy with the pistols and says, step outside. I defy you. This is my town. No, it's not. You're on my borders. No, it's my town now. No, this is my church. No, we're going to lock it up. We're going to put chains around your church. This actually happened in Vermont many years ago. You're not doing what we told you to. And they locked all the Christians inside the church and put chains around the building. The cops did. No, you don't understand. We're the authority. We're the national whatever. We're the police. We're the protectorates. We're the ones who are capable of shutting you down. You can have your religion in your heart, just don't have it on my streets. And by the way, that property is soon going to be mine. And that place in Oregon is soon going to belong to the Oregon government. And that place over there in Wisconsin, a number of years ago, that little piece of property is going to start belonging to the U.S. government. And that place over there in Idaho, well, we've got plans for that. But those are church places! That's right, they are. I'm sorry. In time, they'll be mine. I defy anybody who says they prevailed with God. I defy them. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were excited, liberated, full of faith, power, zeal, excitement, ready to use the power of God and do whatever they needed to do to win this battle. Right? Yeah. Wrong. They were dismayed and afraid. Greatly. Dismayed and afraid. Boo! We're like Scooby-Doo. Boo! Run away. Wouldn't you? I mean, if I had two guys in black show up at my front door, one's carrying a machete and the other's carrying a machine gun, don't you think the chance is my heart would go right up and I couldn't say anything in faith for about 15 minutes? Because the adrenaline would hit, the panic would hit, the shock would hit, the never heard anybody speak like that before. We never heard anybody speak like that before. We have an opinion. We believe that theologically, if we study it, there's a probability that this is what it means. Who are you to come up against me and say, it doesn't? Ironically enough, when Jesus came along later in time, he did it to them. They couldn't catch him in his words. Boo! And all the demons went, we got to kill him. Jesus was our champion. But back to here. They were dismayed and afraid at words. They were dismayed and afraid at the scene in front of them of this guy. They were dismayed and greatly afraid. Question. Why didn't 52 archers just put him into a pincushion? Because they knew it wouldn't go through the armor. Wouldn't make it past the shield. They were going, wow, that's pretty strong reasoning. I don't know if I can defend myself against that. Wow, that's pretty strong armor. I don't know what happens if I were to plow into that. I probably should reconsider and see whether or not I've got those scriptures down right. I probably should find out whether or not I really believe God can do that. Maybe it's not in His will. I don't know. Maybe think about this a bit. I don't know. Maybe that sickness is bigger than me. Maybe that person's bigger than me. Maybe that nation's bigger than me. Maybe that government's bigger than me. Maybe that organization's bigger than me. Maybe the alphabet LU organization is stronger than me. They all have names. And they make us afraid. Today in the news, the ACLU. Today in the news, the ABCD. Today in the news, the DEFG. Who cares what the acronyms are anymore? It's just one more guy. One more kid coming up from the streets. Oh, there you have it. Old-time religion is about to get a whooping. Old-time religion has been living off of their worship services to bolster themselves up so that the spirits will run away because at night they're having demonic nightmares. Fear. Fear by night. Now, fear by day. Bad enough, Saul's having fear by night. Now he's got fear by day. Now we have terrorists. Here we go again. Before it was Nazis. Here we go again. Before that it was somebody else. Before that it was somebody else. And don't they always say the same words? You're weak. You're frail. We can attack you anytime, anywhere, in any way in which we choose. Pearl Harbor. You know what I'm saying? Evil strikes first. Evil draws blood first. Always will. Always has. Now David, the beloved, the son of the Ephraimite, of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse. He had 8 sons, and the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were denomination number 1, denomination number 2, denomination number 3. If we could just get all the denominations to come together and sign that petition, we should be able to defeat this guy. Especially if we throw our weight behind the last Reformation movement. As a matter of fact, if we could just get together 3 strong pastors from 3 strong churches to go behind one stronger pastor from a stronger church, we should be able to win this battle. As a matter of fact, if we get 5 parachurch ministries to support one good standing old denominational ministry, we should be able to go against us all. Flip the color, the light shines through differently. The truth of the matter is, this is how we always start our battles. We send out our young, we send out our best, we send out our brightest, we support them behind the man who's dying. It is unfortunate that we go that way, but we do. Ephraim, Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, is a descendant of Ephraim, and Ephraim means doubly fruitful. David came from a place that was doubly fruitful, a place that is called Bethlehem, the house of God, of Judah, the place where Jesus is going to be born from, the good root, the good place. David is a shepherd boy, but he's more than a shepherd boy. He's the next man coming up. He's the revival that hasn't been seen yet. He's the warrior that hasn't fought yet. He is going to go against the soothsayer. He doesn't even know that he's going to do it yet. He's called, but he doesn't know what he's chosen for. He knows he's called. He's already been called. But he doesn't understand. He doesn't know what he's about to walk into. He comes from the household that says, Yah exists. We must first believe God is, right? Yah exists. I am the beloved from the double blessed place, and I believe God exists. As do my brothers. We all believed God exists. We all are different, however, as our names would surely tell you. Each denomination has a different flavor, different taste, different touch. Each brother, individual brother, has a different flavor, different touch. A Luther follower, a Zwingli follower, a John Knox follower, a Wesley follower. You know where I'm going? A Pope follower. All different. By the time it goes down a few generations, the name of the Son is different. But they do accept that Yah exists. They do believe God is. And they do believe it, or they wouldn't be going up against this Philistine. They wouldn't be taking the chance of picketing. They wouldn't be taking the chance of lining up their armies in array if they didn't believe God exists. They would simply go, you're right, it's been a pipe dream, we made it up. God was a concept we created in our own mind for the benefit of our own heart to keep us at peace. You're right. We know that. We've been faking you out for about 2,000 years. It's been fakery. It's been just something we kind of dreamt up. We thought it was a cool idea. You know, hey, The idea is past. Old-time religion doesn't count anymore. Not really significant. We can let it go. Let's become Philistines. I'll go back to the world. I don't know if that Jesus thing was real or not. I'm not really sure if those truths were truths really anyway. That church that I belonged to, yeah, I thought maybe it might have been something, but it probably was nothing but a bunch of hooey. You're probably right. I should become a Philistine. I should go down to the local bar and start drinking and hop myself some drugs. You're right. I should dig myself into the world and just make lots of money, because really that's all there is to be a money-making Philistine. And besides that, I realized my armor wasn't as good as yours. All these years I thought I had armor on, and really I was running around in skivvies. Boy, was I deceived. Whew! I'm glad I left that shield stuff and sword stuff behind a long time ago. No, see, these guys didn't believe that. They still believed there was a God. They still believed the old-time stories. They still believed that it was possible. And they still believed we are Israel. We're the prevailers with God. But we are not quite sure what to do with this one. He doesn't seem to cometh out so easily. Well, have you been praying lately? Well, no. Well, this kind only cometh out by prayer. This kind only cometh out by sitting up on the hill and singing worship songs unto the Lord by the hour. This kind only cometh out by a man who can speak psalms that are a mix of, man, life really sucks, and but I'm going to overcome in God. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. But these kids are different. You know, these are the kids that are part of the normal way. The normal religion, the normal next movement, the normal next blending. Hey, let's merge this church with that church. Why don't we merge that church with this church? How about that church with that church? That'll make us stronger. And we'll line our armies up in array. And we will say to ourselves in our heart, we're taking this territory for Christ. And the Philistine's going to go, huh? You're about 3,000 years too early to quote that line. I'm a Philistine and you're an Israelite. David was the youngest, and the three eldest follow Saul. The young kid again. Why is it always the younger? Why does God always do that? Why doesn't he use the elder brother? He's always got to use the prodigals and the young kid. He's always got to use the next generation of children. It's going to be very frustrating to watch 12-year-olds doing the miracles that some of us have been asking for. Of course, on the other hand, some of us might be the Joshua Caleb types. We might be actually the David and Hart types. David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. Did you catch that? He went back to feeding the sheep. I got my duties and responsibilities. I can't take my time worrying about the CNN broadcast here, the INN broadcast here, the ABC broadcast here, the CDEFG broadcast here. I gotta go feed sheep. See ya. Got to go back up to my mountain, play my lyre, and talk to my kids. You guys go ahead and fight it out. I'm the young kid. I realize that. The Philistine drew near morning and evening and presented himself 40 days. Oh, I hate that number. How many days have we listened to this mouth say to us, we're going to come and get you. We're going to come and get you. We're going to come and get you. Today in the news, so-and-so has filed a petition and a motion in Whitcomb and Nipcomb County to go against the Church of, Law of, Religion of. Next news article, page 5. Well, I think that the religious right shouldn't. Well, I think the right shouldn't. Well, I think the religious shouldn't. Next day in the news. Headlines, breaking news, pastor arrested. Next day. Headline, breaking news, priest arrested. Headline. Don't you see what it's intended to do? It's intended to make you afraid. It's intended to make you fearful. It's intended to make you be greatly dismayed. Every time you turn around, somebody in the religious community is taking a whooping. Yeah, but they deserved it. A lot of them deserved it. Yeah, so did Saul. So did Saul. Saul's on the decline. Saul's on the downhill. Saul, who had been handpicked by God. Israel, who had been hand-delivered by God. Yeah, they're having some problems. But the point here is, the headlines are Philistine talk. It's the tone of the Philistine. It's the tone of the defier. 40 days and 40 nights, you're going to puke on him. Because they want you in your corner. They want you in your small church hiding in a room someplace. They want you shut up. And if they can scare you into it, they will. And if they can't scare you into it, then we're going to have a war. We're giving you your chance now. We fired the shot across your bow. We put up the bullhorn against your Waco. We put up the bullhorn against your whatever. We have changed our business processes to be more in line with the Philistine thinking. We have come into the wisdom of the Oriental thinking. We've come into the wisdom of the other people's thinking. We've come into the wisdom of so-and-so's thinking. We're picking up the old-time ways. We're bringing back a revival of paganism. That'll take care of you. Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp of thy brethren, and carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their 1,000. And look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. And so it is with the Spirit of the Lord. He comes down upon the intercessors, and he says, Here's what I want you to go. Go take a word over there. Go take a little bit of truth over there. But while you're over there, do a little reconnaissance for me. Check and see how they're doing. I need to see what's up. I need to know what's going on. Your brethren are out there on the front lines, and you should be supporting them, because they are fighting on God's behalf. But while you're there, check and see if they're all right, would you? Feed them. Take care of their captain, too, their boss. It's a wise thing to take care of your son's boss. And take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. I thought it was interesting. All of a sudden they're fighting. A minute ago we were just having a conversation. Now we're in a fight. Yeah, that's the way it works, you know. You fight, you fight, you fight. The armies run home. They lick their wounds. And then up comes the Philistines saying, Come on, guys. We just had 50,000 die on the right side and 50,000 die on the left side. And don't you see we're not winning this war? It's a simple matter. Face me, and we can end all this bloodshed. Face me, and we can end all this death. All you got to do is give me a compromise. All you got to do is give me a SALT II agreement. All you got to do is give me a nuclear arms agreement. All you got to do is give me something. We can end all this. We can have peace on earth from here on out. You'll be our servants, but at least we won't have bloodshed. You'll be our servants, you'll be our slaves, but at least then we'll have peace in the land again. All you got to do is acknowledge that our ways are right. And your ways are, well, you know, dust. All you got to do is let us bite you on the heel and don't step on our head. So the fight goes on. Up the valley, down the valley, up the valley, down the valley. Another church disappears. Another brother dies. Another saint is gone. And interestingly enough, some demons have left the territory too. Interestingly enough, there are some evildoers that have ceased to exist. This brother prayed, and that worldly thing disappeared. That worldly person shot a law, and this church vanished. This church shot a law, and that worldly thing disappeared. And you drive down 1st Avenue, 9th Avenue, Highway 99, 29, 79, and all the shop signs have changed. Yay! Wait a minute. The good guys and the bad guys have left town. Now it's a ghost town. Wait a minute. There was a big revival here. What happened to it? Oh, it moved downtown? Well, it was a big... Why did it move downtown if it was such a big revival? Well, it got assaulted. Paul had to get let down over in a basket and go out the window. It was time to move on. But see, what you don't realize, if you're looking from God's perspective, there were demons that lost their post during that war, that set of battles. There were businesses that were so certain they could stomp on the nose of the Almighty, and poof, they couldn't. They're not there anymore. But we don't really know all that because we're too busy going about feeding our sheep. We come down, we check out the battle, we go up to our hill. David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper and took and went as Jesse had commanded him, and came to the trench as the host was going forth to fight, and shouted for the battle. Cheers! How many services are we going to have to go into where we do cheers? How many services are we going to go after where we hear the same thing from the music leader up front saying, We will win, we will win. Cheers! Give us a shout! Shout unto the Lord! Praise unto the Lord! I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying they do it. I'm just saying we do it. I'm just saying, okay, encouraging, gives me a little faith, a little hope, a little whatever, until the Philistine speaks again. And then we crawl through our week and come back on Sunday for another shout and cheer. Better that than not coming back next Sunday and not doing a shout and cheer, because then we'd have quit the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. Army against army. Just all you got to do is just say that phrase about 52 times, and it's just going to give you a stomachache. Army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army and came and saluted his brethren. Notice the correct attitude of the young brother. Saluted his brethren. I recognize you, old-time religion. I recognize that you are out here to fight in the name of God. I recognize that you're part of the prevailer of God. I recognize that you are trying. I recognize you. You're not only my brother, but you're my family. You're not only my family, but you are the army of God. And I recognize you. I salute you. I greet you. I say, hey, you. I know I took the word salute about 5 different ways in the flipping of that light, but that's what it is. It's love of the brethren. It's love of the soldier. It's love of the Israelite, the prevailer with God. And he talked with them, and behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words he'd been saying over and over and over again. Only one difference. This time, David heard him. This time, the intercessor came out of the closet long enough to hear the tone, tenor, and arrogance of this evil voice. This time, he looked around him and said, now, wait a minute. I came up here earlier, and I had to go back and work on my sheep. It didn't seem like we had any real anything here. It was just, all laid up in array, and of course we're going to fight, and we're going to win, and that's the way it is. But you haven't won yet. I come back to bring you some loaf and some spirit and some word and some stuff, and I come back to look at your church, and it's still in array. How come you haven't won yet? And I'm looking around, and I'm going, well, bless God, I'm glad you're standing here, but why are you still standing here? There's a strange uneasiness in him. He can't quite figure it out. I'm certain of it. He's looking around going, this should have been done. This should have been finished. This should have been over by now. We should have won this one. And then he hears that Philistine speak. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. Uh-oh. Now the spiritual discernment gift kicks in. Why did you run? You guys will go down there and you'll hook law against law and ecumenical against evangelical, and you'll hook it out in the courts, and you'll hook it out on the streets, and you'll hook it out in the local establishments and the education system, and you'll hook it out. And this one guy makes you run? What happened to your nerve? What happened to your spirit, church? What happened to your belief in being Israel? What happened to your perspective here? We are running from him. We're running from that rich man who's upset at us. We're running from that government official who's ticked off at us. We're running from that ex-pastor who decided that all religion should be destroyed. We're running from that ex-Pentecostal who's now raising up a tent ministry right next to every revival so he can diss it. We're running from him. As an army, we're running from him. The church world is having a difficult time with the news. The church world is having a very difficult time with the trade journals. The church world is having a very difficult time with business. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that has come up? Have you seen this man? Look at this man. Oh my, we're doomed. We're doomed. If that law goes through, ladies and gentlemen, if that law goes through, we're doomed. If such and such happens, we're doomed. If they take prayer out of the schools, we're doomed. We lose. We lose a Christmas tree, we lose. We lose a star on the Christmas tree, we lose. Panic! Run! Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. That's Saul's offer. Notice Saul didn't go up to fight Goliath. Notice that it wasn't the champion against the king. Dun, da, da, da. No. This guy's got nightmare problems. This guy would have gone up against the shield carrier. He'd have been sitting underneath it. The guy to use him for snow like an ice sled, you know. Saul doesn't go up. You say, oh, kings don't go to battle. Oh, yes, they do. There are kings who are known for having gone in front of their armies to battle. So-and-so the lion-hearted. So-and-so Constantine. So-and-so such and such. Oh, they'll go in front of their armies. No, not Saul. He's in the backdrop. He's got an idea, though. He's got a program. He's got a plan. He knows how to motivate a church to move. He knows how to get that ministry going. He's going to offer you the opportunity of a lifetime. If you will go slay this Goliath, I'll make you associate pastor of this church. Show me your gifts and I'll make you associate pastor. Show me that you got some spiritual, and I'll see to it that you'll have a salary, you'll have a really good plush thing. Your family will be free in this church. You never have to worry about things. You never worry about things. Not a thing. Hey, we might even ask you never to tithe. Hey, we might ask you, I'll tell you what, we'll make you part of the parsonage. Yeah. Hey, we'll give you a house. Hey, we'll cover you under our umbrella. I tell you what, we'll spawn you off as an independent ministry. You can do whatever you like. We'll make you your own mini-kingdom in the middle of Israel, while all the rest of the Israelites have to be normal such and such people. We will make you this. We got it figured out, see. It's real simple. We'll just raise up a new parish. We'll just raise up a new church. We'll just raise up a satellite church. We'll just raise up we'll set you free in Israel. All you got to do is one thing. Do this for me, and you're free for life. I'll give you my daughter. I'll give you whatever church you want. This is the way religion works. This is the way Saul works. This is the way the old-time guys do it. This is the way of church. And guess how many people are on the front lines fighting the devil for that chance and that opportunity? I think I could beat this guy. I think we can beat this guy. And if I beat this guy, wow, that's going to be cool. I'm going to be friends to the king. Ha ha. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. I'm going to be special one day. I know who I am. I'm called. I'm going to be special one day. I'm going to have prophet, pastor, and preacher written all over my forehead. I'm going to wear a mitre made of religion. And Saul has sold them a really good rewards program. And it doesn't matter whether it's a singular man running a singular church, or a church running a denomination, or a denomination running another denomination, or the entire church universal telling all the little kids, come back to mama. It's all the same. Just rotate the light, and now we're into purple. You got to see it. You got to feel it. It's humorous. It's not humorous. It's sad. It's tragic. It's drama. It's trauma. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? And who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? Just who does he think he is? So tell me again what that reward was, and who does he think he is? He is defying the armies of, and catch the key word, living God. David had a living God in his heart. What did Saul have in his? What was the statement really saying? Is your God alive in your heart? Is your God living over the church? watching carefully, planning, deciding how he's going to raise up the next move? Or is your God the last revival? Is your God the last Reformation? Is your God the reminder stories over and over? And notice he also said, this guy's uncircumcised. What a statement. Who cares whether or not he's had his foreskin removed? What's that got to do with anything? Oh, you don't understand. He wasn't making a statement about the physical condition of the man. He was saying, this guy's got no covenant. This guy's got no agreement with God. He has stood up and he has declared, I have a right to be here. This is going to be my land and you're going to be my servant and I have a right to be here because I'm a Philistine. As if the Philistines had an agreement with God that they get to conquer the world. This guy doesn't even have a covenant. What shed blood? What Moses' staff? What lamb sacrifice has he ever had to be so defiant? If a prophet walks into town and he says to the king, thou art the king, thou art the man, he's got a right to. Because he has the blood, he has the staff, he has the God to back it. And so if he defies a king, defies a nation, defies an Israelite, defies a church member, he's got something what to worry about. But this braggart who trusts in his own strength and the name of his nation and the time and tenure of his culture, this guy has no covenant. Quit looking at the world as if they have equal covenants with us. Scary thought, isn't it? Scary thought. That we actually have to make a distinction between us and them. The people answered him after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the man that kills him. Here's the way it is. This is what we're looking forward to. David's already starting to change on the inside. He's going from being a shepherd boy with good worship music to being something else. And he's changing rather quickly on the inside. The spirit within him is starting to stir. That cotton-picking infilling of the Holy Ghost, as it were, is starting to bubble. That well deep down inside is starting to geyser. I mean, it's just starting to stir. He's not worrying about sheep anymore. He cared about his sheep. He loved his sheep. He watched over his sheep. He tended to his sheep. He protected his sheep. And all of a sudden he saw an entire nation with no shepherd. All of a sudden he saw something. He didn't know how to word it. He didn't know how to say it. He just saw that's defying that, which is defying that, and that is not acceptable. Let's get our perspective right here. He speaks mean words, but he's not circumcised. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men. Yes, the old-time religion's listening in on the new kid coming up. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride, and the naughtiness of thine heart. For thou art come down that thou mightst see the battle. I know why you came down here. You've always been the young upstart with an attitude. You've always thought you were the one that was going to be special in God. You always thought God was going to give you the coat of many colors. You always thought that you'd be the one riding the golden chariot up into the sky and passing your mantle on to the next guy. You've always had these dreams of grandeur. I know why you came down here in the pride of your heart. You came down here because you think you're special. You came down here to kind of look around the war. You got this attitude of judgment and evaluation. You're sitting down here looking at us down your bony nose, young'un. You think your revival is going to be any better than ours? Do you think you're going to really be able to do more for Christ than we did in our generation? Do you really think your church is ever going to grow better than ours grew? What do you think? See, now not only poor David has to take a beating from the Philistine, not only does he have to go drive Saul's demons away, now he's got the church not liking him. These are the people who believe God exists. These are people who came out of the doubly blessed place. These are family. These are brothers. And all of a sudden they're turning sour teeth. I know what your problem is. You think you hear from God. Are we not Israelites? I know thy pride, the naughtiness of thine heart. Oh, I've got a gift of discernment. I've seen your kind before. I've got my psychology degree. I can see it plain as can be. I saw it in my friend when I was 20 years old. I saw it in my sister. I saw it in my father. I saw it in my mother. I saw it in my other relative. I've seen this before. I got you all figured out. I got you clocked. I got you analyzed. I got you figured out. My discernometer is perfect. You, the beloved, have a very proud heart. Thanks for the cheese. Appreciate the bread. Thanks for bringing the wine. But your sheep aren't being tended to, Pastor. How comes you're out here in the battle? Shouldn't you be going back home and tending to your sheep, little boy? Shouldn't you be going back home and tending to those sheep of yours back there? What are you doing running around the world telling people that you know how to take the devil down? What are you doing on an airplane coming over here trying to start revivals in the battlefield someplace? Who do you think you are? Go back home. Go back to your church. Go back to your home fellowship. Go back to your little group. Better yet, just go away. I grew up with you, remember? I know what you're made of. I remember what you did when you were 10. I remember how you cried in your soup when you were 12. I remember how you ran in fear when you were 15. I remember you. I remember those demonic deliverances you didn't overcome. I know those addictions you still are stuck with. You haven't changed. You just think you're special. David said, "What have I now done? Is there not a cause?" What have I now done? Is there not a cause? You can accuse me all you want, but that turkey is still up on the hill. That world still exists. The carnal mind is running the universe. The God of this world is still up there blabbing. So go ahead, accuse my heart, accuse my mind, accuse my soul, accuse my mentality. But what are you running from him for? Oh, I think I should go run in a corner because my brother chewed me out. I should run in a corner because my sister ignored me. I should run in a corner because my church doesn't like me. I should run in a corner because my Bible study just put me out. I'm not going to have anything to do with church ever again because they rejected me. I'm never going to talk to my three brothers again. That does it. I've had it. They can all die as far as I'm concerned. Just go ahead. Fight the Philistine and die. See if I care. How dare you attack my heart? No. David went right past it. Right past it. Right past the blame, the accusation, the analysis. You got to realize this is one sentence in the book. There was a much longer conversation. And he said, "Is there not a cause? Do we not have a reason to take this guy down?" He turned from him toward another and spake after the same manner, and the people answered him again after the former manner. In other words, I'm just checking my sources here. Is it always the same story? Are you selling me a bill of goods here? Is Saul really going to do this? I better do a little bit of internet searching to make sure I got this story right. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. This whole conversation of David running around asking these questions and whatnot just stirred things up. Don't you know that it always stirs things up when a brother comes along and says, what does that verse mean? Can you explain that to me? Why did you do that? What was that revival all about? Why did we do it that way? And what do we do if we win this one? And there's always a grapevine. There's always a grapevine. It goes right back to Saul. There's always a grapevine back to the last denomination. There's always a grapevine back to the church council. There's always a grapevine back to the board of directors. There's always a grapevine. If you ever step up, open your mouth, and yell the phrase, "Is there not a cause?" David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Something changed. He didn't go back to his sheep. He said, "Well, this time I got to take care of another matter." The Spirit of God upon this man. Remember, appointed by a prophet, called by God, anointed previously, has experience in yielding to the Spirit of God to the point of driving away demons through worship music, with a good relationship with the Father. He's got a name means beloved. He believes God exists. He comes from a place that's doubly blessed. And he just says, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. No braggadocio in that. No, look at who I am. Not really. Just, I'll take care of it. Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him. Who do you think you are that you're going to rebuke demons? Who do you think you are that you're going to take this anything for Christ? Who do you think you are that you're going to stand against a power and a principality? I think you should stick with the lower demons for a while. Who do you think you are that you're going to just da-da-da-da-da? And your friends and your relatives all run around and go, oh, come on, guy, you can't file a countersuit against the ACLU-BDFGHIJK organization. You can't be the one to stand up against them. One guy against all that? You don't even have the financial resources. You don't have the armor. You don't have the training. You don't have the ability. You've never even been in the Army. Have you ever been to boot camp? Nope. Have you done your exercises? Nope. What have you been doing with your life? Well, I've been sitting up on a mountain tweedling with my lyre. You're not qualified. We ran it down. We looked down our entire skills qualification list for a pastor, and you don't got it. Prophet, you don't got it. Evangelist, you don't got it. He's going to eat you for lunch. I'm sorry, but we cannot appoint a novice to office. Scriptures warn us, don't appoint novices to offices. Novices are going to get eaten up by Satan alive. You're not able, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. You are outclassed, outgunned, outmanned. You are a teeny little boat against a very large ship. How many weapons you got, kid? None. You got a shield? Nope. Armor? Nope. Helmet? Nope. What do you got? I'll get to that in a minute. No, son, I can't let you do that. I'd be a terrible king if I let you do that. I appreciate your heart. You have a really good heart, kid. You have a really good heart, revivalist. You have a really good heart, new guy coming up on the block. You have a really good heart, youth pastor. You have a really good heart, but you got to realize, we are the older saints. We've been around longer. We fought more battles. We know how to size up our demons. We know exactly how large they are, how powerful they are. We know exactly what we've been pushing against this one for 25 years. He's not going to come down in a day, not going to come down in a minute, not going to come down in an hour, not going to come down by one prayer, not going to come down by believing. It's going to take a concerted effort over a period of time where the armies of God just keep going against the armies of the devil until we take them down. One guy just can't do it. Not big enough. And you're too young. You're too simple. You're too early. You're a new church. You're an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot. You're the little guy. You're 3 people, 5 people, 10 people. You're only 12 people. You're only 100 people. You're only 150 people. You're only 200 people. It really doesn't matter what number they plug in. It's always the same line. We have an entire denomination. What do you have? 10 people. 2 people, 5 people, 7 people. You're the young guy. You're the green guy. You're green. This guy's a warrior from his youth. This guy has been in battles and fight. Do you realize how many times he could have been dead? Do you realize how many times he whooped him? Do you realize what his notches on his belt look like? Do you realize how many notches he has down the side of the shaft of his sword? You see all those dings in his shield over there? Those are men's heads. Those weren't rocks. You know what I'm saying? This guy's got experience in demonic warfare. He pushes demons around anytime he wants to. Have you ever pushed a demon around? No, you've been tending to sheep. David says unto Saul, I might be the new kid on the block, however, I do have some experiences you're not taking into account. Thy servant, notice the phrase, thy servant. He's not coming in going, bless God, I've been called to be the deliverer of Israel. And you, O king, should be listening to me because I was spoken over. He says, thy servant. I humbly submit myself to thee, O king. I humbly submit myself to my former pastor, former leaders, former whatevers, current leaders, current pastors, current whatevers. I'm not arguing against you, O king, but I need you to consider something. Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he rose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and those are my credentials. See, the Philistines' credentials are my armor, my helmet, my history, my background, my culture, my training, my practice, and the many dead bodies behind me. David's criteria are whooped a bear, whooped a lion, saved the sheep. But there's a little funniness in that story, because what he says is, I took him by the beard and slew him. Now, I don't know about you, but if a lion came into the sanctuary right now and roared at me, I'd probably be more like Israel up against the Philistines. I wouldn't be like David looking at the lion saying, give me that sheep you just took. You got to picture that. He had come and took the sheep. He was about to rip that person out of the assembly. He was about to go and destroy that life. He was about to go and take this one. And I said, over my dead body you will. I don't just sit on the hillside worshiping God. I fight battles too. I just fight them in my little domain. And he who is faithful in little things shall be made to rule over bigger things. What difference is there to me, O king, whether by the Spirit of God I rip his jaw apart or by the Spirit of God I rip his jaw apart? What's the difference? I don't see a difference here. This is a spiritually minded man. This is a man pursuing after God's own heart. That's what he was called over and over. He was the beloved. He saw no difference in his spiritual mind between the lion, the bear, and the Philistine. There is no difference between the little demon, the middle demon, and the big demon. There is no difference between the old world, the new world, and the rewrite world. The only difference is, have you been taking down the little guys while you're in the little season so that you can take down the big guys when you're in the big season? David said, the Lord hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion, out of the paw of the bear, and he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. We have got to stop as a people, as a church universal, trying to think we're going to win this by numbering Israel. If we can just get 1 million to stand up there, we'll win. If we can just get 20,000 up there, we'll win. If we can just get 15 bills up there, we'll win. If we can just get 22 whatever's up there, we'll win. We have to start slewing. We have to start slinging. We have to start going after the sheep, the one guy, the one that left, the 99 guy that's all messed up, the 99 girl that got in trouble. We got to find a way for God to use us and take back what we can see. It's not easy. David said, the Lord delivered me. Yahweh. Doesn't even say Elohim, the mighty one. It says Yahweh delivered me. How would you know it was Yahweh? How do you know it was God? Maybe it wasn't God. Maybe you just had an adrenaline rush. How'd you know? How'd you know? How'd you know? Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. Yeah, what do you do with a guy who pulls the trump card of God said? Let's go find out if he's got God, I guess. If he goes up against the Philistine and dies, he was deceived. If he goes up against the Philistine and wins, I'm going to guess I'm going to have to give him my daughter. But I don't have a better man right now, because all the rest of the guys have run the other direction. Let me check my management handbook. Who do we send into the battle? The guy who's running away in fear or the guy who thinks he can do it? Simple executive decision, I guess. Saul armed David with his armor. What a nice guy. Put on his helmet of brass upon his head. What a nice guy. Armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he assayed to go, for he had not proved it. Saul backed him. Saul backed him. Son of a gun, if that denomination didn't say, you know, okay, kid, I see your zeal. I see you've got spunk. Tell you, here's what we'll do. We'll fund your ministry for a year. We'll give you the opportunity to prove yourself. We'll license you. We'll put your license on you. We'll give you a good helmet with identification that says, I'm of the armies of Israel, so that everybody knows you got your credentials. And I'll even give you my personal armor out of my own self. Okay? You can go represent me. You got to understand it. He gave me his own armor. You can go on my behalf. Go in the name of, pick your denominational name and fill in the slot, please. Go ahead. You are hereby ordained by the kingdom of Saul, descendant of the kingdom of Israel, descendant of the law of Moses, descendant of the power of God, to go forth into battle against the mighty Philistine, as thou hast said, for thou hast zeal and courage and boldness and bravery, and my guys are cowards. And David's standing there. You got to picture it, you know, good-sized brass helmet, brass against brass, right? He had a brass helmet, I get a brass helmet. He's got a really good shield, I got a really good shield. I got my faith from him. I got my helmet of salvation by believing in him. I like that. And I'm going to go against this Philistine on behalf of God. Okay. Clink, 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 clink. This doesn't work. I can't even move. That's right. That's right. Ever wondered why we keep having this telescoping effect in religion? Where this movement breeds this movement, which breeds this movement, which breeds, and they keep coming out of the previous movement? It's because the armor doesn't work. It's too thick. It's too heavy. You can't do that. Don't you understand? There's rules, regulations, and policies of how religion should operate. And boom, up comes some young upstart who decides, I think I'll throw tent ministries out. Nobody's ever done that. Up comes some woman who says, I don't know why, but God's called me to be an evangelist, and there ain't no women being evangelists, but oh well, here goes. Here come the unexpected, the unknown, the invisible popping into visibleness. And of course religion's going to want to help you out once they realize your zeal, because quite frankly, they're tired of having church members that are all burned out. They're tired of having an entire movement that's all burned out. So, here we go. Now, the elder brothers are going to continue to say to the Rick Joyners or to the whoever's, thou art proud. But Saul goes, hey, guy's got guts. You know what I mean? Okay, so he's got guts. I'll give it to the kid. He believes God delivered him. He believes God can deliver him. We need God to deliver us. QED, go do it. Sounds logical to me. I will give you my own armor. I support you 100%, kid. All you got to do is put our name across your banner and they'll listen to you. All you got to do is put a sign up at the front that says 1st Baptist, 3rd Baptist, 7th Baptist. We'll support you. And that Philistine will immediately know you're one of us. And realize there's an entire history of Israel behind you. He'll never know you're the rookie kid coming up from behind. He'll never know, kid. Don't you get it? He'll never know. You'll get to stand up against the Philistine like one of those who have been around for 100 years. You know what I'm saying? Because you really don't want to go up there looking like some wimp kid up against this guy. He's going to laugh at you. The next move is going to be just like this one, which was just like the one before. Going to come out of nowhere, going to get appointed by some denomination and someday have to break away from that denomination and give its armor back. It's going to have to say, thank you very much, I appreciate the support, but I just realized something, I keep tripping over your shoes. I have not proved them. David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. I haven't put them to the test. I've never used them on anything. How do I even know how to swing this stupid thing? I've got to have my own faith. I've got to have my own strength. I've got to have my own yielding to the Lord. And some people get very proud about that. I've got to have my own yielding to the Lord. No, kid. Don't swing sword like that. You're going to cut your own foot off. That's not what David was doing. He was saying, I've never tested this one. I've never tried it. No, I think I better give you this back. And David put them off of him. Handed it back. Thank you very much for your ordination papers, but I better do this one solo. Thank you very much for your support, but I think I better do this one solo. Thank you very much for believing in me. I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to diss you here, but I do have to go do this on my own. Every new move of God has made that statement sooner or later. And he took his staff in his hand, and he chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, even in a script. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. Yeah, I know which verses I need to stand on. I'm going to put my rocks in those verses. I know what prayers I put up before God, and I've seen him answer, so I think I'll use the same prayer again. I think I know exactly what the calling is. I remember the prophet anointing me once. I think I'll bank on that too. I'll put it all in the bag. I don't know what I put in the bag, but I'm going to put in the bag the things that I know God told me. I'm going to reach down and I'm going to take an ordinary object out of the river. I'm going to take an ordinary vessel out of the land. And I'm going to put it into the temple of my bag. And it's going to become holy the moment it touches me. Because I am under the Holy One. And that ordinary rock, all 5 of them, have just become powerful. All 5 of them have just become mighty. It was ordinary a minute ago. It was in an ordinary river a minute ago. But I'm going to take my rocks, I'm going to put it in my bag. Because once it goes in my bag, once it goes into my heart, once it comes into my spirit, once it's part of me, and I'm part of him, that anything that I touch, anything that touches me touches him. My rock is God. Ooh, if we could get to the place of intercessory prayer where we can sling a rock at a distance and say, my rock is God. What are you? An animist? You believe God's in everything? If I'm in God and it's in me, then is it not anointed, appointed, and ready to fly? And I'll put it in my shepherd's bag. I'm not going to put it in my prophet's bag. I'm not going to put it in my future king's anointing bag. I'm not going to put it into my future prophet's bag. Because remember, he was a prophet later. He was a king. He was a shepherd over Israel. You know what I'm saying? He put it in his shepherd's bag. There's a point in saying that. Why didn't he put it in the king's money bag? Why didn't he put it in his pockets? Why did he put it in... He put it where he knew where it fit, you know? He'd been grabbing out of that bag. He knew where that bag was. It was cleanly attached to his side. He knew how to get his hand in there, get it out quick, put it in that sling, and he knew how to move that bag. He knew exactly where to find that verse. Boom, boom, boom. Going to pray for healing. Boom, boom, boom. Going to use those verses. He knew exactly where they were. He knew. He was confident. The Philistine came and drew near unto David. Ooh, that's a funny statement. The mighty, powerful one comes against the beloved. Oh, please. That's not even a fair fight. And the man that bare the shield went before him. 2-1, not fair. Get the shield guy out of there. I want it Goliath directly, please. No. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him. Oh, well, what'd you expect? You know what Christians expect? They expect that when they stand up and they look the devil, finally, they get the guts and the nerve to stand up and look the devil squarely in the face and say, you're out of here. They're expecting the devil to go, ah, and run. Well, it says right here the devil will flee. Yeah, he will. But there's nothing that says he's going to run like a coward. It's going to be, you're going to chase him and put him to flight. You're going to knock him out. Nothing ever said he wasn't going to stand there and go, I'm sorry, don't mean to laugh. Oh, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to be serious, kid. You're just a young colt. You're just early. I mean, you haven't even been around. And you fought any battles? Sorry, trying to be polite about this. I realize we're at war. He's a youth, and he's ruddy, and he's fair of countenance. What are you sending against me, models? Cute kids? Send me a warrior. I don't see any tattoos. I don't see any earrings. I don't see any big boulder arms. I don't see any markings. What is he? A kid with a bag? I don't even see a brass helmet. He's going to run into my shield, and my shield's going to knock him on his face. Yeah, that's the way they look at us. That's the way they look at us. What shield? What faith? Look at my doctrines. They've been around for generations. The truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter whether it's the world we're going against, or a previous move we're going against, or a government we're going against, or big fat rich men we're going against? It's really always the same lighting. It's always the same thing, and it really doesn't matter if it's the demons inside we're going against at times. It's the same scene. The Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? Coming at me with a stick? I'll chop your stick to pieces. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Did you ever catch that before? The soothsayer said, All right, kid, here's what we're going to do. Before I even decide to swing my sword, here's what I'm going to do. In the name of Labalas, Lululus, Delalas, Kalalas, Kululus, Lalalas, I hereby curse you! And if you can get past that spiritual wave, then we'll talk about fighting. That's why the Philistine was so arrogant. He wasn't just banking on his physical prowess. He was using that as his image to show you, to scare you. But what he really intended to use was the supernatural power of the Philistine gods. Because this is about a fight against God. And he cursed him. He sent a demonic host ahead of him. He set them to flight and said, deal with that first. If you can get through my demonic curse, then you're going to deal with my shieldsmen. And if you can get through my shieldsmen, then you're going to deal with me. Well, I'm not going to have no kid coming after me with no stick. That's the way it is in this battle. First, we tear down powers and principalities. First, we go into prayer. First, we go into battle upstage. Then, we go against the shielding, if necessary. Then, we go against the Philistine, if necessary. Realize that people curse all the time. I wish he were dead. I wish God would damn him. I wish. Those are curses coming first. The Philistine was a soothsayer and a knowledgeable person in his arts, apparently. I never really saw the spiritual side of Goliath because we always talk about his natural side. But he had a spiritual side. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. I will give your carcass to the aminals. Then David said to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and a spear and a shield. Totally disregarded the curse. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. Notice that David came up with one extra army that the rest of the Israelitish army didn't come with. The armies of the Lord set themselves in array against the armies of the Philistines. But David set himself in array with the Lord's hosts against and the armies of Israel. And the name, which he knew personally from experience, and the anointing, which he personally had yielded to before, and clear, keen spiritual insight. The next revival will have better insight than the last revival. The younger will always get more. The young in heart who are part of that will have more. We will see more. It has to be that way. It has to be that way. Look around. We're back in stalemates again. Stalemates are happening all over the place again. We're back to armies and arrays. We had battles, they came down. We had anointings and appointings and battles and da-da-da-da-da. And that church vanished and this vanished, and they all went back up to the mountains. Each side of the valley looking at each other. World against church. And the Philistines are talking. And Saul is having a drink. And the armies are wondering what to do. Please stick with me a little longer. I realize I've gone over in this message, if you're willing. This day the Lord will deliver thee into my hand. Oh, you proud kid, you. Your hand? Don't you mean the hand of the Lord? No, it's my hand. And I will smite thee. Now, wait a minute. Listen here, intercessors. Don't you think you're being just a little bit proud there, thinking that the demons are going to submit to you? I don't know, disciples thought so. Don't you think you're getting a little bit elevated to think that you can do anything? Shouldn't we rather be saying, the Lord in me is doing? Not when you're talking to a demon. Not when you're talking to a demoniac. Not when you're talking to a highly evilized individual. This day, Yahweh, my friend, up there, is going to take you down here. And I will smite you, and I will take your head from you. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, the birds of the earth, and all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Not that we are Israelites in God. Not that we are special, anointed, and appointed. Not that we are the prevailers who God helps out. But that you might know that He is here. You touch this ark, you die. You touch this brother, you touch him. You touch my rock, you're not going to be touching my rock, but I ain't getting there yet. You are defying God. You're not defying Saul. You accused us of following Saul. You're wrong. You accused us of being weak. You're wrong. We're not anything. He's everything. But I will be the one to execute this judgment. And whereas you thought to throw my body to the beast, bugs, and bears, I'm going to take your body and throw it to it. That you and all your kin will know there is a God. That's the contest. There is a God. God exists. I am from Jesse. And I'll prove it to you. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with spear and sword, for the battle is the Lord's, and He will give you into our hands. Now He's pluralized it. Now He's gone from my Father to our Father. But He first had to get to my Father, my God. Then He said, and you will be submitted to our. There's a trade-off there. Watch it. For the battle is the Lord's, He will give you into our hands. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. He didn't stay up on the hill. He didn't stay in his prayer closet. He didn't stay in the corner. He didn't wait for the arrival of the demon. He went out after him. Because it was a question of who's going to put who to flight. Two freight trains headed on the same track, headed for each other at 90 miles an hour. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose. Yeah, he arose all right. But he didn't know what he arose against. I wonder how fast David ran. It says of Elijah that he ran so fast he outran the chariots. It says that Samson took doors off, gates off cities. I wonder how David's anointing worked. Here comes the kid. Here comes the shield man and the Philistine. Doom, 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 doom. And the kid's going, and his hand's going down into his bag, and he's going, How comes the Philistine didn't take that weaver beam and just go, uh-oh, Pintussin. Ever thought about that? See, we always assume that David just ran in his own strength. I don't think he did. I think he ran a little faster than they expected. I think he went right by the shield man. I can't prove it. I don't think I can prove it. All it says is he killed him. Doesn't say what he did with the shield man. What happened to the shield man? Where was the shield man in the story? Where was all this great education and doctrinal stuff that we were supposed to have to do battle with before we got to the Gath guy? How did David get around? Did David just go around him? Did David go... take a stage right? Did he leap over the guy like, the promise to Gad? I think it was Gad. What did he do? Maybe he just plain hit the shield guy. Boom! Right over the shield, right through the guy. Excuse me, sorry guy. I don't know. What I do know is he said he came in the name of Yahweh, and that means Yahweh was adding. He says he came with the Lord of hosts, which means there were angels lining up on all sides. All of a sudden, what Elisha knew, David knew. See that host right there? You guys are going to stay right up on that hill, and none of you are going to touch anything. You're going to stay right here. I could just imagine all those demons going, I want to get him, I want to get him, I want to get him, and all those angels standing in a row going, not until the condition is met. Your man bluffed. Now we're scrapping. Sit down. Shut up. And when that's over, then we'll decide. Of course they were there. He said he knew they were going to come. He had faith that the angels would arrive so he could take care of this matter. He didn't have to worry and fear and wonder whether the guy up on the hill was going to go, I'm not going to let that junk kid get away with it. You know how people are in battle lines. They get a little bit nervous. You know, they want to pull the trigger when don't shoot, don't shoot. And always there's some guy at the other end that gets too nervous and I'm going to kill him. Or some ego says, I'm going to kill him. No, they were all, leave it alone. Leave it alone. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. Whether an individual or a church or a revival or a movement, this is the way it is. David put his hand in the bag as he was running, took a stone, and slung it. Whee! 90-mile-an-hour anointed kid with an appointed rock, destiny, purpose, future, calling, and God. Doesn't matter whether it's one verse, two verses, an entire doctrine you're going to sling at that creature. Find it, pick it out of the river, polish it good and proper, put it in your bag, and get ready to use it while you're running. You know that prayer you put up last week? You're going to put it up again. Only this time you're going to do it while in flight towards something. Slang it, smote it, sunk it, fell it. That's the next words. Pretty simple, don't you think? I just think it's pretty clean. Right past the shield guy, right past all that armor, weaver, beam, and all that wonderful descriptive armor and brass. Oh my, isn't it just too bad he left his forehead uncovered a little bit? Isn't it just too bad that no matter how much the world tries to make everything they do airtight, they always leave a little chink in Leviathan's armor where you can shove the spear up inside it? David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling, with a stone, smote the Philistine and slew him. There was no sword in the hand of David. Oh man. There was no sword in the hand. Why'd you have to add that PS in there for? There was no sword in his hand. Came up with a stick and a bag of rocks. And a breathing, a breath, a wind. And what happens when you give a good tailwind to something? Rocks go into the air. The law of physics demands that motion and speed travel at a certain speed and motion. Do you realize how good a shot he was? Do you realize how skilled he'd been in the Lord? You realize his brothers probably laughed at him all the years he sat up on the hill going, wee, 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 pink, wee, 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 pink, as he's knocking trees and branches and leaves and, little briar bushes or whatever they got over there. You know what I'm saying? Just pick up a rock, sling it, pick up a rock, sling it, because he likes slinging rocks. He slings rocks. Slinging rocks is what he likes doing. And one day he needs to sling a rock to kill something really important. The next day he slings a rock to kill something really important. Don't despise even your playtimes. You don't know. You might be sitting here mulling over verses, or you might be sitting here wondering about things, and you may think it's of no use. And then all of a sudden there's going to be a day, a place, a time, a necessity. And that musing, that doctrining, that thinking, that praying, all of a sudden crystallizes into necessity. And it does its job. Doesn't even matter if it's only for one battle. Later on after this time, I don't know that it ever says David ever used a sling again. Later on, he's a king, and he has his own armor, and he gets to take the armor of Saul, and he gets the daughter, and he gets the land, and he gets the king. It's just one of them success stories. Don't know if he ever used a sling again. Don't know if the old-time religion is ever going to be used more than once or twice. We're not trying to resurrect dead things. We're trying to bring in life. I want you to grab it in your heart, see it in your heart, see where we are in the church world right now, this minute, here we are again. The lighting has changed one more time. David ran, stood upon the Philistine. You're under my foot now, Satan. Drew his sword out of the sheath, slew him, cut off his head. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. But there really should have been a P.S. at the end of that phrase. And the devil left, waiting for a more opportune season. Yes, they fled, but it's going to be for a more opportune season. Yes, we finally have peace in this church. Yes, it looks like nobody's touching Methodists today. Yes, it looks like the Baptists are nice and safe. No more assaults against the direct, you know what I'm saying? Most of the Baptists. Pentecostals are taking some hits right now, but you know, we're getting kind of quiet again too. Pentecostal movement's taking a certain amount of hits from everything I see, read, and pray. But, you know, we're getting quiet again, a little bit. There's revivals popping up here and there. There's movements popping up here and there. But the devil's backed off in some territories. They fled for a little while. But it won't be forever. The men of Israel and Judah rose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until they came to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way of Shaharaim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but put his armor in his tent. Oh, think of that. Wake up every day in your tent and look over at that sword. Hey, that's Goliath's sword. Took his head. Gave the head to the guys in the museum in Jerusalem. It's on display. Reminder, don't mess with God. But I get to keep the sword. Reminder to me, I slew me a Philistine. Don't you see it? It's right there. It's right under our faces. You should be looking back at your last healing. You should be looking back at your last deliverance. You should be looking back at the last time you slew. You should be saying, God delivered me that day. I came against that sword with this rock, guys. I came against that weaver's beam with this bag. I came against that brass helmet, and I didn't even have a helmet on my head. The next move of God, the next move of God, the next move of God, each one of them are going to take to spoil in their own tent. And they have a right to. They have a right to put in their museums and in their history books. Look at this, the time of Catherine Coleman. Look at this, the time of so-and-so. Look at this, the time of such and such. When the great David slew the evil Goliath. But then we have to realize it's our time. It's our time. Now we have to step up again. Our tent doesn't have a Goliath sword in it. And we're hearing that voice again. And it's coming back around again. And it's been 40. Put whatever time period you want on it. It's been 40. It's going to happen again. I wanted you to feel this message. I felt it last night. It just started growing. I apologize for being a little bit longer, but it's like we've got to see those overlays, and we've got to keep looking at those overlays. They're always moving. We've got to stop saying, why did that church die? Why did that brother fall? It doesn't matter. What matters is there's God. There's a soothsayer who's got demonic power who's thinking he's going to whoop you. There's always going to be a Moses against a Jannes and Jambres. And we have to keep practicing, working it, talking it, stirring it up. What do you call it? Admonishing one another. Admonishing one another. This message is really a message of admonishment, loaded with a lot of observation of overlays in Christian reality. It's real. It's not just a story. It's not just cute. It's not just history. I'll read the last phrase and end in the message. When Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner says, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. I don't know who he is. Now, why didn't Saul know who he was? He just sent him out there. Yeah, but he's over in a tent back here, and the kid was out there, and he did send that kid out to the front lines, but he didn't take my armor or anything, so it can't be him, right? Can't be that kid. It's got to be one of the other guys in the army. Who in the army did this? Don't you get it? He'd already taken him out of his mind. He'd already discounted that revival. He'd already discounted that new move. He'd already discounted it. It was gone. That was Neo-Pentecost. That was cheapo Pentecost. That was, who knows, put something in front of it and rename it. Couldn't have been that movement, was it? The king said, inquired. David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine. Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, young man? And David said, I am the son of thy servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. I am the one who believes God exists, of the descendants of those who believe God exists, in the house of God. One more verse. I want to jump to chapter 18. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle. The king's descendant that day said, I now acknowledge you are going to be the next king. And you have your confirmation for the prophetic anointing that happened way back when you were a little shepherd boy standing in a line. And you get Jonathan. You get a bonded person next to you who that day, it says, God knit them together and they were inseparable. That's a mighty, mighty statement. There are other ministries out there. What I'm trying to say, there are other descendants of Saul out there. There are other saints out there who know or believe that they're supposed to be in the next move. When they see the real one, they link to it. And they become as one man. That's where we're going. I don't know if we link to them, they link to us, or we all link to each other. But we are going to keep pursuing until we find those who sling rocks and take down Goliaths. This message has been delivered. I thank you, Lord, for this message and the power of it. Bless our hearts and minds as we go with it. And help us to see this church world and ourselves through every rotating light, Lord, to see the stage, to see the setting, to know what we're in, that we not forget the examples you have so graciously given us. Amen.